Curtis Peasley. Grew up in Orange and ended up moving away to SCU up in Lismore to do printmaking, and majored in it up there. And after finishing that, just worked around a bit and tried to pump out as much work as I possibly could before ending up moving back down south to Canberra to do a graphic design degree. It was when I moved down there that I really stumbled upon the book culture that comes out of places like Canberra. It might just be because it's cold and everyone likes to stay indoors a bit more often, but whenever I'd go along to like op shops or second-hand book fairs and stuff like that, I'd always scout out for the books that always looked the most textured, or they had an interesting title, or it had nicely yellowed pages, so once I started cutting them apart, they'd really sort of open up and show a completely different narrative to the one that's printed in it. They all come with their own little stories. That one was a book on, I think, Darwinian theories or something, so I thought I'd just sort of stick some things in it, have it so it's growing out of itself. And then this one, determinative bacteriology. It was just nestled between some book about birds and some boring book on tax, just completely out of order, and it was just staring me in the face at the Lifeline Book Fair in Canberra. Kind of started constructing with it, so it seemed like it was growing out of itself, trying to give other people ideas and spawn different thoughts. And yeah, that was at the Lismore Art Space, where I was in residence up there for a little while, early last year, and that's a finished product of it. It took a lot more time than I thought it would. Very, very fiddly. It turned out pretty much as I'd imagined it, though. And it's the only one that I actually started to make at that stage that had an end point in sight, that I wanted it to look a certain way. Other than that, I'll just sort of make them up as I go along. Those little ones ended up being, as you'll see on the next slide, basically a homage to armed conflict, because it came from a book called The Thin Red Line. And I decided to cut them up into certain ranks and wrap them up as if each soldier was being gift wrapped for death. It was not a happy work, but usually I try and keep it fairly upbeat, but that one lent itself to it. Along the way, each of the little bits and pieces, I'll cut them up, and I like to call them bookie bits. It's a little sort of stage where it's an artwork before it's an artwork. It's right before I assemble them and then mount them to wood and frame them. Like that one, that's what it ended up becoming. I like to think that it's the old style of information meets the new style of information. Basically making a pixelated book. So instead of it being pages that you read through, it's now information being sent to you in bite-sized chunks. And it's like when when your reception on a digital television goes out of whack and everything just goes into fluoro squares and everything sort of jumbles itself up. I'm thinking, imagine if that happened when you were reading a book and it suddenly lost reception and started changing and transforming into a mess of pixels in your hands. So that was at a stall at Canberra Handmade Markets, which actually went over very polarising. Because you'd have people coming up and going, oh, look at because it was something that they hadn't seen before. And then there was other people coming up and just giving me really dirty looks because I was destroying books. And strangely enough, the main people who were really interested in it and really loved it were retired librarians. I don't know whether it was a Harvard bitterness towards their previous profession or whether they just really liked it. that was in the arrangement stages of a commission work of a person who approached me at Canberra Handmade Markets and said, okay, I'd like to get one in this certain arrangement and in this certain colour, and by chance I just happen to have a book of that colour. Put it together, and it's now hanging up on her on a wall right next to sort of a main feature wall, so quite happy with that one. But I also like to think I'm sort of humanising the books. Like if they're sitting on a shelf in an op shop, they're probably about 2 steps away from being thrown out to landfill. So I figure I'll take them from that fate of just slowly rotting away in a garbage dump to being changed into something that can be a centrepiece of another family's life. Like they were once loved by lots and lots of different people along the way, and then now they've been discarded, but I have the chance to change them into something that people can hold in high regard in their lounge room or their reading nook, or gift it to other friends and family. And there's a gore shot. Sort of one of the black books are just sort of cutting up into pieces, and that's just a little indicator of how much book dust ends up all over me and all over the floor. And that one I like to call Paper Jam. You can see sort of the strips of paper that I cut out of out of the book, and then sort of bent them around and glued them in place with strategically placed clamps. But that one took an unbelievable amount of time. Well, thank you very much.